Where are others? Karan? So we'll wait for a minute or two as very few students have joined. Okay, everyone, write your name and roll number in the chat box. Attendance is not working. Fine. So just write your name and roll number in the chat box. Okay. You will write your name and roll number in the chat box for the full attendance as LMS is not working. Okay, so today we have two sessions. Okay, in the next second section we will discuss some of the questions pattern that you will have in your first internal exam. Clear? So after internal है ना 14 से. Okay. In the second class, I will discuss some of the patterns how the questions will be. Okay. So what are topics or syllabus that we have to cover? So I will discuss that in the second part. So in the first part, we will just complete the two more control boxes are there or control parameters are there. We will complete that one, and the second part we will see. Fine. So as we have studied yesterday we have seen two more control methods or control boxes. Okay, one is a combo box, second one is a list box. Fine. So in a list box, basically we study how to add an item to list. Okay. So with the help of a function called add item. Okay. So add item function, so we can add any number of item to list. Again, you have to remember the argument type should be specified. If you want to add an item and in string type, then the argument type you have to mention as a string. And if you want to add an item with an uh, numeric type or integer type, then it should be integer. And similarly, we can use suppose someone wants to remove an item from a list. So on this case, to removing a method or removing the item, we can use a remove item command. Okay. So what command we are using? Now we are using a method called remove item method, which is used to remove an item from a list. So whenever the user want to remove any item from a list, so we can use the method called remove item. The syntax for the remove item is very simple. It's similar to the add item. So what is syntax? Syntax will be list dot one. Okay, list dot one remove item index. Now index specified. So as we have already learned, the list button basically have an index parameter which specify the index of particular item. Now here you have to specify the index while removing the item. So uh, whatever item you have to remove or want to remove, then just instead of giving the item name, so what we provide? We will provide the index name to it. Okay. So for example, so let us see an example. Now this is an example, uh, or we can use an example where we can code to verify that an item is selected in a list and then it is removed from the selected item from the list. So first of all, it's selected from the list. So once it is selected, then we have to remove that item from the list. Fine. So I will use a procedure called CMD remove. So CMD remove is basically a procedure which is used to which will be using here to remove an item. Okay. Now what I'm writing now list index is greater than -1. Now I'm checking whether there is any item present in my list. Okay. So what this step is doing? So it is checking the index number is whether it's greater than -1. That means if there is particular list consists of any item or not. If it is consists of item, so what we are performing list dot one remove item combo one dot list index. So that means we have this particular list index is given. Suppose I want to delete a list index of 2. Okay, so I am using this combo control. Okay, so I have provided the index number. So this particular item will be removed from it. Fine. So similarly, we have also studied one more method here, which is called clear on. So what is the difference between these two? Remove item basically remove a single item from your list, whereas clear all will delete all the items. Okay, whenever I use the method called clear all, so what basically it will do, it will delete all your item which is present in your list. So what's the method for that? So method basically we will use a clear method. Okay, the method that we have used is called clear method, and basically it is used to remove all the item from the list. And how the syntax looks like? Syntax is very simple. Now just have to write list one dot clear. So whatever list you want to delete, okay, or on whatever list you want to remove all the item, that list should be there. So we have list one. Suppose I have written as list one. That signifies that I have to remove all the items present in your list one. Okay, so these are the 3 functions you have to remember, which is used in case of list control. One is your add item to add the item. Second is your remove item to remove the particular index or particular item, then clear all. So basically, whenever you want to delete all the items, okay, so we will use the clear method for that. Fine. So it's clear to all of you? It's clear? So there is this, sometimes they ask these questions, okay, what are the difference between a list box and a control box? Fine, so let us understand what is the difference between these two. So list box, so if I say list box, so basically it's occupying more space but show more than one value. Okay, so if I say list box, so the space occupied by the list box is compared to the combo box is less. Okay, and it will show more than one value. It will have the option of more than one value for selecting the item, but but in case of combo box, the application is less, but it show only one value for the visibility. Fine. It's the first difference. And remember, second difference, we can select a multiple item here. So suppose user want to select the multiple items, so it can be easily available. Okay, or we can select multiple items. Whereas selecting a multiple item is not possible in case of your combo box. Okay, you cannot select a multiple item in case of combo box. The third difference between the list and combo box is list can be use check boxes within the list box. So we can have an item of check box in a list box, where in a combo box we cannot place the check box within a combo box. Okay, so this is one of the important feature of the list. Okay, so what we say basically we can insert or we can place the checkbox as an item inside the list. Okay, so that is the reason the list is providing you by selecting a multiple item because of the availability of checkbox. Okay, because the availability of checkbox, the list is providing you the multiple selecting option. But whereas the using the option of checkbox inside the combo box is not available. So that is the reason we cannot use the multiple option. The next difference between these two are list box is much easier to handle. Now this is more user convenient, okay, because it can be handled much easier, okay, compared to that of the combo box. Because combo box is not easier to handle; it is very hard to handle as it is a mixture of text box and a list box. Okay, so it will be sometimes it will be difficult to handle the combo box. Okay, fine. So next and last difference between these two are we cannot add an image item to the list box. Or this is one of the drawbacks of the list. So what is saying we cannot place. Okay, we cannot place that image item to a list box. Suppose if you want to add an image, so it is not possible with the list control. But however, these features can be added to the combo box. Okay, that means adding an image to the combo box is available. Okay, we can add an image option to this one. Okay, just remember these few points. Okay, if they ask the question what is the difference between the list box and the combo box, you can write this point. Even you can add few more points also here. Okay, so but sometimes they will ask this question. Okay, what is the basic difference between the list box and combo box? Fine. Some of the basic differences remember, like add the image item cannot be added, image item can be added. Now checkbox can be added to the list, checkbox cannot be available. Because of checkbox, the multiple option is not available in combo box, but multiple option is available in list box. Fine. And list is much easier to handle, whereas combo box is somehow difficult to. Okay, so this is a difference between uh, your list and combo box. So yes, Karan is there, Shivam Kumar is there, Marcel is there, Deepak is there, yeah, those who are not given the attendance. So as today the LMS is not working. So everyone please write your name and roll number. Okay. Everyone write your name and roll number in the chat box so that I will update whenever the LMS issue will be resolved. Okay. Fine. So again, those who are late joined in the second session of today, we are having two class. So in the second section, I'm going to discuss few questions, okay, of pattern of the questions that that will be coming in your first internal exam. Fine. So do attend the second session also, which is very important regarding your exam. Okay, so let me finish. So next important control is your horizontal bar and vertical bar. So while designing any application, so we need some of the scroll bars. Okay. So for the scoreboard purpose, so there are two types of scoreboards. Basically, we can embed in the form, okay, or we can implement in a form. ठीक है, जब कभी फॉर्म डिजाइन करते हैं, कभी कभी हम लोग को फॉर्म को या एप्लीकेशन पर सॉल्व करने की जरूरत पड़ता है, तो उस केस में हम लोग दो डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ स्कॉरबार बेसिकली यहाँ यूज करते हैं या कंट्रोल के लिए यूज करते हैं. एक आपका हो गया HSC scoreboard and one is vertical scoreboard. One is horizontal and one is vertical. Now let's understand what is the meaning of or need of the scoreboard. The scoreboard is commonly use controls which enable the user to select a value by by placing it in desired location. So what basically it is used for? So it is a control which will be helpful for user to enable a select option or select a value by placing the scoreboard at a proper position. Okay. So basically it is represented by set of values. So we will assign every positions will have, okay, every positions will be have certain value. So based on that value, we will going to select the particular option. Now we are having the properties such as minimum and maximum values. Okay, the scoreboard will have the properties such as the minimum and maximum value property. So as we are suppose now this is my horizontal scoreboard. Okay, horizontal scoreboard. So each of this each of this position will have certain values. So whenever you move this score box, okay, this is called score box. So whenever you move this score box, it will be vary from a range of some minimum value and maximum value. So there will be a minimum value. Okay, so this score box will be assigned a minimum value and maximum value. Right, there will be minimum and maximum. So whatever the score bar will move, it will be moved in between the these two values, that is minimum and maximum. So that is the reason when we will define a score bar, we have to define the property for the maximum value and the minimum value. Okay. Next, the value property of score bar represent the current value. So what happens? So whenever the position of the score bar is placed or score box is placed, so it will be defined or it will be represent the particular value property. Okay, value property of the current value, and there may be integer between minimum and maximum value assigned. So as I already said, so what happens? So whenever this score box is placed anywhere, so what it indicate? It will indicate the property value of score bar. Okay, the property value of the score bar, which will be represent its current value, and which will be varies from maximum to minimum. Fine, clear? So it is very simple. It is basically used by the user to select a value by positioning in desired location. Okay, so each of these position will associated with certain values. Okay, and there is a important properties which is called minimum and maximum, which is identify your minimum and maximum range value of your score bar. So at any position, if the score bar is placed, it is give the current value of the value property, and it will be in between your maximum and minimum. Fine. Next point, there will be two different types of scorecard we are used. One is your horizontal scorecard and second is your vertical scorecard, which is widely used in Windows application. So whatever Windows application we will use. So if we are using the scorecards, then we will go for these two types of scorecard. And both this type of scorecard have the three areas that can be clicked or dragged to change the scorecard value. Okay, so whatever changes, so whether it is a horizontal scorecard or the vertical scorecard, so we have a three important area. Okay, three important area that can be clicked or dragged to change the value of the particular scorecard. Okay, so what is the area? First is an arrow. So an arrow represents your maximum and minimum value. Now this is your end arrow. This will be also represent your end arrow. So what it will represent? It will represent your maximum and minimum value. Similarly, I am having a scroll box. Second one is a scroll box. Okay, or sometimes it's called thumb. So basically, it represents the current current value of the value property. So where your scroll bar is presently appearing, and what is its value. And third one is bar area. Bar area specifies the range of the value that can be achieved in between your minimum and maximum. Okay, so these are some things about what you understand the scorecard, why we need a scorecard, and what are the values associated with the scorecard, and what are the different types. Fine. So let me discuss. So let us discuss the what are different properties associated with the scorecard. Then the first property is called large change. So large change nothing but increment added or subtracted from the scorecard values property when the bar area is clicked. That means whenever you click on the bar area, uh, it will basically add a value to the current value, or it will be subtract the value from the current value as per your position. Okay, as we are positioning our scroll box in the bar area. ठीक है, जहाँ पे भी आप अपना स्क्रॉल बॉक्स को पोजीशन करोगे, either if you place on the right hand side, it will generally add the values. If you generally place on left of it, then it will generally subtract. So which property is going to manage? The large change property is basically going to manage this one. But the next is your max property. Okay, the value of horizontal score bar at far right and the value of the vertical score bar far bottom. So what is the max represent? So max is integer variable. This basically represent your maximum value in horizontal direction and maximum value in vertical direction. But and it ranges from basically it ranges from this is the range of this max value. Similarly, we are having a minimum value. It is very similar to that of the max value, but here instead of storing the maximum range, it will store the minimum range. And for the horizontal score bar, it will be left of it. And for the vertical score bar, it will be at top of it. And it ranges from basically again the range is from minus the 32,768 to 30 plus 32,767. Fine. Then there is a property called small change. Now small change is very similar to large change. If there is a marginal change, marginal increment in the small box, then the value added and subtracted from a small bar value property that will be indicated or represented by small change. Then value is very important property, so because as we said, the value will be identified or value property of the scroll box within the scroll bar. Okay, will give the current position of your scroll box. Okay, so जहाँ पर भी आपका scroll box रहता है आपका, ठीक है, scroll box में that value particular value will be always assigned the current. What you can say the current value of the current assigned value for the scroll box, and it is basically stored in the value property. Okay, value property. Now we can basically identify the proper position of the scoreboard with the help of this value property. Okay, it is clear what are the properties of scoreboard? I think, okay, so let's move on. So what are the event associated with the scorecard is that are property event. We are having only so one event is there which is called event change. Okay, so on basically we can say only one event will be associated with this scorecard, which is called event change. So it will be basically triggered after the scorecard position has been modified. That means if you whether you have moved the scorecard to the left of it or you have moved the scorecard right of it. Okay, so it will be triggered. So when the event function or when the change event will be occurred, the change event will occur basically whenever the scorecard position is modified. Whether you have to move to the right hand side or you have to move from the left hand side. Okay, it uses while using this event to retrieve the value property after any change is performed. So basically this event, what will the event do? So whenever you change the position of the small bar, okay, so it will retrieve, okay, it will retrieve the values, okay, it will retrieve the value that is associated with the current position. So this is the event function will do, okay, on an event, a change event will be performed in a small bar. Find the scroll bar event triggered continuously whenever the scroll box is moved. So whenever you move the scroll box, okay, this event will be continuously triggered. That means continuously going to execute. Right. So we will, as we are moving, so what we are doing, so we are continuously changing the value. As we are continuously changing the value, right? So it will be also changes. Okay, it's or we can say the event function is continuously triggered or continuously activated. Fine. So only one event is associated with the scroll bar, and there is no method. Remember this one. Okay, no methods are associated. Only one event. Okay, like other toolbox we have studied, there are many methods are there. Okay, as in case of list, there are three methods are associated with the list. But in this case, we will not have any method associated with the scroll bar. Okay, we will have only one event that could be a change event. So this basically uh, define or basically it will be triggered or activated whenever the scroll box, and what it will do, it will retrieve the value of so the current value or current position value for the value property, or it can specify where the user or where the scroll bar is presently positioned. Okay, clear? This is something about the scroll bar property. The next is your timer control. Okay, next, sometimes basically we need a timer. Some of the application where you have to place a timer. Now on that case, we can use this timer control. Okay, we can place a timer control. Okay, so what a timer control is say? So a timer control is is the invisible runtime, and its purpose is to send a periodic pulse to the current application. So if some applications are required to measure the number of times or a number of times that is occurred, okay, or they need sometimes if they need some periodic or say periodic pulse of signals. So on that case, we can go for this time application. Now this control expose only two meaningful property. One is your interval and other is your enable. Fine. That means whenever we enable this one, okay, only two properties are associated or two meaningful important things which are associated with the timer control. One is your enable. Enable means that will be activated, then it will give the pulse interval. Okay, or time interval. In which time interval that is performed. Now definition of interval, what I already explained. Interval stand for number of millisecond between the subsequent pulse. So what is the frequency of that activity that will be given, and enable lets you to activate or deactivate the event, whether you want to activate the timer control or you are not want to activate the timer control. It depends upon the enable property of the timer control will decide. Then whenever we place a timer control on a form, so whenever we embed it or whenever we insert this timer control on a form, its interval is 0. Initially the interval is 0, which means there is no event. Fine. If it is interval is 0, then will be performed. The timer is unable. Okay. That means the interval is 0 means there is no event. If the interval is any other value than the 0, then it will indicate now the timer is activated. Okay, the timer is activated, and we can, uh, or basically we are using this time. Fine. So this is about your timer control. Okay, okay. Let me discuss this slide. Then we'll stop this here. Then we'll discuss two questions. So what are properties? As I already said, the timer is associated with two properties. One is enable. Enable basically so whether the timer is activated or not activated. Okay. Again, if it is true, enable is true, that is activated. If enable is false, it is not activated. So interval is basically gives you the number of milliseconds between any of the two pulse, okay, or any of the two frequencies for the timer event. Then what is the event associated? There is one event associated for timer, which will be basically will provide the number of intervals. Okay. Now let us understand this with the help of example. Now this is the application that we have to design. So we use a very simple technology to show the animation by using the property. Okay. Visible equal to false and visible equal to true. Okay. The property is here. What? If the visible is true, it will be visible. If the visible is false, okay. If the visible is false, it will not visible. Fine. To show and hide the two images alternately. So what you have to do now? The question is, frequently you have to show two images. Okay. So if the visual is true, like the first image will appear, and if the visual is false, the second image will be appear. Okay. Now I have to frequently change this timer. Now I have to use the timer here because what will happen now? Now I will have certain amount of time assigned to each image. For that, the period of for that which will be visible. Fine. Now to show and hide two image alternately, now we will click on the program to the following. Then we see the following animation. The following animation can be seen. So let's understand the program. Now I'm using a sub procedure called timer underscore timer. Okay, this is my function. Basically, what a function will do, what a function will do, that the function will alternately changes. Okay, this function will alternately changes in between the two images so that for the user it will be looks like two images are appearing one after another. Now what we'll use? Now we will use image one dot visible. Now what we are saying, whatever image we have taken, now image one dot visible equal to true. Okay, if it is true, then what we have to say the visibility of the image one dot visible should be false. Similarly, if I say image two dot visible is true, okay, then one is true. Now, if it is true, then what I have to do, one should be true and other should be false. Similarly, if second is true, then I have to make one is true and another is false. Fine. So in this way, what we can do, we can able to display or view, okay, two images and alternate way with the help of placing a timer. So basically, we are placing a timer, okay, and we are assigning a time interval to each of these images, so that for the user point of view, it will be looks like The timer is assigned and the image is alternately visible. Okay. So still, for your first internal syllabus, regarding the first internal syllabus, so the syllabus will be up to the list control. Okay, what we have discussed. Okay, from the first class to up to the control. Okay, so we will not going to cover this horizontal pass and timer control. So, but whatever we covered still the previous class, that is up to the list box. That will be the syllabus for your first internal exam. That means introduction to visual programming, then introduction to Windows programming. Fine. Then we have discussed some of the Microsoft Foundation class and how this Microsoft Foundation class useful for designing your Windows applications. Then uh, we have discussed the basic features provided by the uh, visual programming. Then programming concept of Visual Basic. That means all this we can say all these features, that is starting from the operator to the array. Okay, how we can use this in my programming language. Then your how we can use your control toolbox element or control box. Okay, what are different uh, properties, or we can say what are different types of control box here available, and what are the properties, method, and when associated with this property. So this will be the entire syllabus for your first internal exam. Okay, if you are having any doubt, you can ask me if you are having any doubt regarding the syllabus of exam. Is there any doubt? Okay, if you are not having any doubt, so what we will do, so we will discuss few of the questions. Okay, few questions that or we can say the patterns. Okay, the pattern of the question, how the question uh, will be having on this type में कैसे question there. Fine, so just join the link again. Okay, as we have less amount of time, join the next link so that we can discuss on that. I'm stopping here. So join the next link.